Okay, so thanks again for coming, folks. Today's very focused research certificate seminar is on starting your Ohio legal research with Ohio jurisprudence and practice materials. Okay, so why would you do this? Hopefully you have been told this in your legal research class, but a lot of the librarians will emphasize this with you. It's so important to get grounded with secondary sources when you are unfamiliar with an area of law, and obviously most one else, you're not familiar with that area of law. What do they do for you? They explain and analyze legal topics. They tell you what is the law. The other benefit is that they will cite primary authority for you, cases, statutes, or laws, regulations. In addition to that, in preparation for looking at other resources and databases, they may suggest keywords to you to use in those databases. Quite often, secondary sources, particularly things called loose leaf services, pretty soon you'll see those, will provide current awareness. What are the latest cases? What are the latest news and happenings in an area? And these kinds of materials include encyclopedias like Ohio Jurisprudence, practice materials, which I will mention a couple of those today, blogs, journals, etc. Okay, now added features of practice materials are that they have these very helpful finding aids and cross references so that you have, if you have a clue, say you know there's a code section on something, perhaps you can use a finding aid to help you find appropriate material in that secondary source. Quite often these practice materials also have drafting guides, checklists, if not sample forms that you can use. So very, very helpful materials. Now there's the age-old question of the benefits of print versus the benefits of electronic resources. Very often print resources are cost-effective and easier to use. The reference librarians, we will see you guys struggling with questions, trying to search Lexis or Westlaw Next over and over and over again, like spending a couple hours when you could have gone right over to a print index and opened it up and had your question right there. And think of that when you get into practice. What will your firm have access to? If your firm specializes in an area of law, then they'll purchase that particular practice area print item. And it can be so helpful to get you started, get you prepped. If you need to go into a database, you'll be prepared before you go online. Now, the advantage to print definitely is they're usually more current. Okay, so like if you look in OJR or whatever and you'll see that pocket part, but then you'll see it only comes out like maybe every 3 or 6 months. Electronically, quite often those materials are updated way more. Then the obvious benefit too, with an electronic document, you can get to those links that are on there. You have the cross-references that you can go to automatically. You can also download, copy, paste, text, all that, the obvious benefits of that. But here's another thing too about print materials. Quite often they'll have a CD, so you can have those forms electronically and be able to manipulate them in your software. So, okay, this is Ohio Jurisprudence, and I have just there on the table a couple of volumes if you want to look at those now, as well as after the session, if you like, I can take you upstairs and show you some of these materials. We have virtually every single practice item you can think of in Ohio law we have. Domestic relations, probate, real estate, all kinds of things, business forms, etc. But OJR, what's good about OJR is this is the main encyclopedia of Ohio law, like 90+ volumes, something like that. So you use the general index in Ohio jurisprudence to look at your issue. Now the issue I have selected for today, just to give a for instance, to give some frame of reference, let's say that you're working with a client who's divorced and has been paying child support for his son and daughter. His former wife has remarried, and her new husband is very wealthy and very happy to support her and her children. Your client and his former wife have a very good relationship. They're on the same page as far as raising their kids. And at this point, she is agreeable. Let's modify the child support arrangement. So how are you going to help your client to do that? Now, in Ohio jurisprudence, if you look in the index, here we can find under support of children, which first it was child support and says C, support of children. There's a subheading on modification or change. Okay, so the general index will refer you to particular sections of the encyclopedia. Okay, and on this page, it might be a little difficult to see, but on the left, you'll see a specific section, 1208. And this section talks about the court's recalculation of support in accordance with statutory schedules and applicable worksheets. This is actually statutory in the state of Ohio as far as the nature of child support. And it talks about a modification based upon whether that recalculation is 10% higher or lower than the original amount. So it's a nice brief explanation of what the law is. In addition to that, it will cite you to cases, Ohio Revised Code sections. There's a citation to an ALR article, etc. Now, one thing to remember here, when you find a relevant section in the encyclopedia, it's often very helpful to go and look at the table of contents, which is here on the right, for that area of law, because you may see another section that's of help to you. For instance, here, there's a section 1210 on the effect of remarriage, and that was not actually listed in the index. Now, OJR also has several finding aids, one of which is Table of Laws and Rules. If you had known an ORC section, you could have looked that up and it would have referred you to a section in OJR. And it's sort of a cross-reference. In both 1208, there was a reference to ORC 3119.79, and then here you just see it right back again. Okay, now one of the key practice materials we have is Ohio Domestic Relations Law. This is part of the West suite of Ohio practice materials, and there's two black volumes back there, and you'll see that almost all of the volumes are black. The print version of this also includes a CD, so that's really helpful. And then this title is also available on Westlaw Next. So if you looked in the index here, you would get references to particular sections of this practice item. And so again, similarly to the OJR materials, I have a section here, and then this is the listing of the table of contents. This section is virtually identical to what was in OJR, but it is a much larger discussion. And there are many more case references and ORC references here. So as you can see, this is, obviously the encyclopedia has so many topics to cover, it's going to hone in on the very specific ones. This one has an opportunity, since the practice material is only on domestic relations law, it has an opportunity to expand on the topic. This also has a finding aid. So again, if you knew the ORC section, you would be referred to appropriate parts of the practice material. And then this one also has forms. Okay, so here's a sample form. And again, this title has a CD, so even if you just had this in print, you have been able to manipulate this in your word processing. Okay. Now, just to give equal time, to the Lexis system, this is Anderson's Ohio Family Law. Don't be deceived by the 2003 date on it. It is updated on a continuous basis. Looking in the index here, we'll refer to particular sections. Okay, so here's a sample there, and again, similarly to the West publication, it's a much more expansive discussion of the topic. This one I found did not have as many case cites as the Ohio Domestic Relations Law did. It had, and obviously it's not going to refer to those kinds of materials that are referred to in the West publication. They're going to just talk about their own cross publications. Okay, but again, just like the other practice set, if looking at the table of contents, you might see some additional areas to look at. This title also has forms. This was a nice simple form for modification. It did not have a finding aid for a table of laws. Okay, now what I'm going to do here now is sort of go live on the web here. I wanted to show you in particular our research guides that might help you to find secondary sources. Okay, y'all know about our research guides yet? Okay, and did you see what I did there right from the home page, the link to the research guides? Okay, so one of the items that would really help you is the Ohio secondary sources. Whenever you are doing research in an area of Ohio law, I really urge you to come here and start first. You know, get yourself grounded in those secondary sources. But we also have, and I'm not sure, are you being asked to draft forms at all in your legal writing? Not yet. Okay, some folks get you started right away on that. But we do have a forms and practice guide as well. So both of these research guides may help you. Now I'm going to go ahead and log on to Westlaw and Lexis here. And while I'm logging on, do you guys have any questions at all? Just with that real brief overview. And of the two, have you done much work in Westlaw Next or Lexis Advanced yet? You starting to? Are you getting training in your legal writing class? Okay. Okay, so from Westlaw Next, a nice feature in here is the capability of browsing to particular sources. You can always just put something up in the big box, you know, and do your post filtering. But if you know you're going to be searching just Ohio law and in a particular, you know, I want secondary sources, why not just start out that way? So let's say we'll go to Ohio. And at this point, I'm going to specify the content to search. You can, if you want, you could say all content, but we're going to specify secondary sources. Okay. And in here, I'm going to put in a search of and this is going to be a Boolean search as opposed to perhaps what you all are doing are natural language. And I'll tell you what I did here. Okay, so we have child with the truncation symbol, meaning I can get child, children, whatever, within 2 words of support, supporting, truncation there, within the same paragraph as the truncation of modify or change. Okay, so that's my search here. If you wanted, you could get rid of this, see, because it kind of defaults to that. But I have found a curious thing here is when I do that, it doesn't matter. It goes ahead and does it anyway. I found that out today. That was kind of curious. Okay. So, and then it kind of scares you like, wait, what is that? So if you just click on secondary sources here, you'll get to it. Okay, and then obviously we're going to want to post filter here because this is still way too much. So what I would suggest, one of the ways you can do this is you can actually select a publication name. And we're going to go ahead and select domestic relations law and then OJR. Okay, and this takes us down. It's still kind of a lot. Perhaps we could have done a slightly better search, but okay, wow, ding, ding, ding. We got OJR 1208 is the first result there. Okay. Some of the features in Westlaw Next, when you pull up the full text here, is in the right margin. You will have additional secondary sources noted. There are also briefs, trial court documents, things like that that might come in handy to you. The other nice thing they do with their OJR is that they have a topic summary page. So you can get an idea. It's like, okay, am I in the right spot here? So you can kind of read what it is that is in this area. And then they'll give you listings of subjects treated elsewhere, which is kind of nice. Key number digest items. Other databases that might be helpful. Okay. And there's that domestic relations law. And then cites to primary authority, articles, etc. So that's a nice feature there. Okay, and then to show you here, I believe, let's see. Here is that other effective remarriage OJER section. And then here is that section from the Ohio Practice, Domestic Relations. Okay, again, in their right margin, they have cases and other materials that might be of interest to you based on the search that you put in. And they have very helpful footnotes. Again, the main benefit of the electronic is you can go bang right to the document because you've got the links here. So that's pretty handy. That's pretty handy. Okay, now I wanted to quickly get to the Lexis Advanced to give some equal time here. And in the meantime, if you have a question, I could take that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you usually tackle, like, I guess not tackle, but just like, what's your usual approach to like all of the information that might be on like OJER and like the footnotes and everything on the side? Like, what do you suggest is to like a method to go about looking at all that, or like accessing all of it, because it's kind of overwhelming and it's like I don't want to.
And that's the, you know, I think that both database systems thought, okay, we're going to do what most young people do when they're searching, which is the Google big box, and they're really not helping you. So what you have to do now is get very, very effective in your post filtering, and there's really nothing else to do. The other thing though is to search as specifically as possible. If you only want cases from Ohio jurisdictions or Sixth Circuit federal, whatever it is, then just select that. Only do that. And in your post filtering, only select that. And in your search statement, get as specific as possible. And it will come with time. Okay, I've been doing Boolean searching for 25, 30 years. I'm probably better at it. Okay, but give yourself a chance. You know, that's the point of you being here now. And one of the things that we may be doing is a research strategy of a composition of a search statement, because we've gotten some requests on that. The best ways to do Boolean searching, truncation, etc. But I think the two general rules of thumb are is search as specifically as possible with your statement and with what it is that you're searching, and then hone your post-filtering skills, because you don't start to get charged in the real world until you hit into one of those post-filters. Once you start with the overview, that's for free. Once you hit cases or something like that, that's when they start charging you. And that's where people they'll get on there and spend $700 before they know what they're doing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it happens that way. And the way the old systems used to be, it's funny because they changed it. Here, I'm trying to just find my ID here so I know what I'm doing. They changed it because they thought people wanted to search, globally, big way, Google big box. And now they're finding that no, they would really like to go back to the other way, because before you had to specify a particular source, a library, before you could search. You couldn't just put in a general search. So that's kind of interesting. Now, Lexis, I find, since the redesign of their platform is not as friendly for browsing. I think the Westlaw Next system is pretty friendly. So when you go to browse here, let's see. I'm going to browse sources by jurisdiction again, and then Ohio. And it brings up this screen, and then I'm going to select secondary materials. And what I'm going to do here is say, give me the Anderson's Ohio Family Law, which I say put that in as a filter ahead of time. And then also, they have OJER here, but it does not have all of the features that the Westlaw version does. Okay. And then, so you see there's two filters here. And I'm going to put in that same search again. Otherwise, we'll have to let it go. It will retrieve not as many items right off the bat. It does have the advantage of being, it actually only put in what I told it to do. Like it seemed like Westlaw Next went, oh yeah, I know you said just secondary sources, but yeah, I'm going to give you this too. I'm like, why did you do that? This, it really does it. It really only is searching these two titles. Oh, good. Here we go. So here we have, let's see. Yeah, here's the OJR 1208 section, but you'll notice the difference when I pull up the full text here. You can get to other sections, you know, more general sections, but you don't have that nice topic summary. That's not there. And you'll know it doesn't have anything as far as suggested secondary resources to help you. It will list some WES key numbers, but of course there's no links to them. It does have some ORC links, but just a couple cases, not really what was in the other file. And then the sixth item here is this is the Ohio Family Volume that I showed you in print. Okay. So this is actually a very nice discussion of the topic. I found it to be the most complete discussion of the topic, but again, it did not have the same kinds of cross-references that the WES system had. So, you know, I think you will find too that research is very personal, and you're going to gravitate toward one system or another. You're going to I kind of tend to like the WES practice books, but every now and then I come across a Lexis one that has a more complete discussion. Right now I love the Westlaw Next interface. Depending on the search, I may actually get better results in the Lexis Advanced one. So there are some good general principles for researching, but you kind of will develop your own system as you go through it. So I'm afraid we're at the end of our time. So I thank you so much for coming. And if you have some time, I'd be happy to show you some material.